were not done that should have been. But as we are going into the hurricane season, and I'm from Pennsylvania, so hurricanes aren't usually an issue for us, but it is a huge issue in this Gulf. And so as we look at the cleanup efforts, as the hurricane season approaches, what sort of delays can we expect from the cleaning and capping operations if a hurricane comes into the Gulf? Have there been any forecast models for a hurricane hitting ground zero and the effects that will have on the Gulf and or the East Coast? And could that hurricane potentially throw that oil inland, beyond the barriers where it currently would flow?
Thank you. My agency obviously has a lot of interest in hurricanes. We are the nation's weather forecaster, and we have been looking at the potential, what would happen if a hurricane came through. I'm going to leave the operational aspects to Captain Lloyd about how a hurricane might affect the operations. But from the physics of a hurricane, the potential for oil and hurricane interaction very much depend upon the path of the hurricane and whether it comes through where the primary slick is. There is a concern about if the hurricane comes through and there's oil near shore, that the storm surge could carry oil into the shoreline. But that's typically what happens in a major hurricane regardless. If you recall, during Hurricane Katrina, there was over 8 million gallons of oil that was spilled from various tank farms and facilities. And so any major hurricane is going to cause damage to oil and coastal infrastructure and topple cars and boats. So there already is going to be a concern about contaminated debris in those storm surge waters. The idea that we don't have any reason to believe that a hurricane is going to pick up oil and carry it in the atmosphere. It was just going to be the storm surge waters that would have that concern right in the local area.
Captain Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The technology package that's being applied would definitely be affected by a hurricane. There are efforts within the National Incident Commander staff to look at that, develop plans. It goes back to the challenges of developing an organization that can provide plans and subsequent different types of plans for something like a hurricane. They are looking at that. They're aware of that. Obviously, we remain very focused on hurricane planning in the Gulf Coast, so they recognize it will impact operations on the surface due to the need to demobilize. You see the offshore industry go through those steps whenever tropical storms come into the Gulf, so they have a series of thoughts to consider as they plan for that eventuality. So it would likely impact it, and then the requirement would then to be remuster very quickly. So
I have one more question. BP has pledged $500 million to establish a fund to pay for research and development from independent scientists to ensure that this never happens again. What sort of oil cleanup technology and improved deep water solutions would you recommend this money go towards? I don't know who would like to answer that. Anyone?
Well, I think as the chairman of the interagency committee, I think that's the way you address a question like that is you have to basically do an analysis and find out what's important. I think obviously we want to focus on operations far from the shore. Deep sea Arctic issues predominate, so there's some focus areas that have been coming to the front as we've tried to reinvigorate the 1997 technology plan. So those are some areas that are starting to reveal themselves. There's probably others.
Ms. Buffington, is $500 million enough to be able to do the kind of research we need to do to prevent this from happening again?
It would be a good start to look at the mechanical equipment and the deep water subsea containment devices, and also at the worst case discharge calculations and assumptions. I would have to give it more thought and analyze whether it's sufficient, but it would be a good start to look at that, particularly the containment equipment.
Thank you. My time has expired.